All right, cool. We're good to go. So I got head coach of Wesleyan University football, Dan DiCenzo here. They won the NESCAC outright this past season. He's been a great mentor and coach, and always offers great advice on recruiting. And he'll give us a little peek into the world of NESCAC football today. So, coach, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and how Wesleyan found you?
Yep. Brendan, thanks for having me on. Appreciate it. You do a great job promoting football at all levels and love being on the cast. So, I went to high school in New Hampshire, did three sports, was fortunate enough to go to a NESCAC school, went to Williams, graduated in 2001, did football and wrestling there. So two sports. When I finished Williams in '01, I coached at Trinity for 2 years under Chuck Priori, a great head coach, real organized. Really taught a young coach how to do things the right way. Then I worked for Phil Estes over at Brown University for a year and a half. Again, another great mentor. A guy that did a great job with the players and won a lot of games at Brown. Then I went back to Williams full-time for 6 years. And then in 2010, I had the opportunity to come to Wesleyan and really haven't looked back. So it's been a great move for my family and myself. I think we've had 10, 11, 12 winning seasons in a row here. And we've got great kids that are competing really hard for us. So it's been a really positive move here, and this is definitely home.
Yeah. Tell us, I mean, people know about the Ivy League, I think nationally. But it seems like in the NESCAC world, it's a little bit of a hidden gem. At least people in the Northeast know what it is, but people from other parts of the country might not. But what is the NESCAC?
Yeah, it's a similar to the Ivy Leagues as far as academics go, and then athletically, it's a very strong conference in all sports, and football being one of them as well. It's interesting. We recruit nationally, so on our team we've got kids from over 20 states. But when we recruit, and you're talking with a family from Florida or California or Texas, it's always great when they have a connection to the league or they're familiar with the league somehow, and you immediately see the conversation change where family goes, all right, well, we're definitely very interested in, going to a school like this. So very competitive to get in. And again, we're looking for kids that are just doing a great job in the classroom and doing a great job on the field.
Yeah. There's a bunch of different NESCAC schools. What kind of separates Wesleyan? Like, what would you say kids would find at Wesleyan that they might not find at another NESCAC?
Yeah, I'm biased, obviously. I work
Yeah.
here and this is home for me. But, again, I think our community feels awesome. We're 3,200 kids here at Wesleyan. We got a great community feel. The campus is gorgeous. Our football field's right in the center of campus. Middletown's right on the Connecticut River, and it's a big river. I grew up in New Hampshire where rivers where, you might tube on it or swim in them. There's 40-foot boats that go on the river. It connects right down to the Long Island Sound. And, about 100 restaurants downtown. So a lot of options for our guys. For those guys flying in from out of state, we're 2 hours from Boston, 2 hours from New York, so kind of right in the middle. So location's really good. And then obviously you're getting one of the best educations in the country and a degree that's going to pay back for the next 40 years of your life. And I've just seen it firsthand. When you're at a place for 15 years, you see guys play for you, see guys graduate, you see guys get a job and then thrive in life after college, and you love to see that. So a lot of our alums are doing really, really well, and they've been really supportive of our program, which has been awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. There's definitely different flavors of NESCAC schools. I mean, some are pretty urban, some are middle of nowhere. And you don't really see that until you start checking them out a little bit. What would you say is the starting point academically for you guys, or maybe NESCACs in general, for a high school kid?
Yeah, I think for guys in high school, the biggest thing they can do is once you start high school, everything kind of matters grade wise. And what we were test optional pre-COVID, and our admissions office and our school really looks at the strength of schedule. They want kids challenging themselves in the classroom. So that rigor that you're taking, the classes that you're taking, that really matters. So if your school offers 20 AP classes and you've only taken one, that's not great. They want you to challenge yourself as best you can with getting good grades. So, freshman year, I think if you're saying, all right, I have interest in being like this, then you really want to challenge yourself with that curriculum freshman year. And obviously a lot of APs aren't offered freshman year, but honors classes are. And then sophomore year, you might take 1 to 2 APs, depending on what your school offers and stuff like that. And then junior year, increase that to 2, 3, 4 APs. Senior year, 2, 3, 4 APs, depending on what you're doing. And what I tell kids all the time is challenge yourself in the classroom the best you can with still getting really strong grades. So, if you're really strong in math, well then, as a senior, take AP Calc. If you're not as strong in math, challenge yourself in an AP history and AP English class. Don't take 4 APs and then get 2 Cs and say, well, I took 4 APs. They want to see you do well in those classes. So I think that's a big piece of what we do here of the strength of schedule. We do still have kids submit test scores, and that's coming back a little bit more. But really, our school does a great job of really looking at what kids are taking in the classroom.
Yeah. Yeah. I was at a high school years ago, and we basically, we would like the administration would auto enroll kids into APs. And I mean, yeah, like from the outside looking in, it looked great for, the rigor of the school, but we had kids posting C's and C pluses and stuff. And that's kind of a fallacy too, where it's like, okay, like don't go take AP physics if you know you're not going to do well in that. Does every kid, and maybe this is one of the stereotypes of looking at higher academic schools, Ivy, D3 schools, does every kid need like a perfect 4.0 to be a recruit at these places?
Nope. And again, I really think it goes to the strength of schedule a student's taking. We deal with it obviously more on the athletic side, but we deal with a lot of kids that, you do a Zoom with them, you have them at camp, you have them on campus, you can tell that they have great respect for their family, for their parents, guardians, for great respect for their coaches, and they're doing a great job in the classroom. I really, really stress with them in high school is meet with your professors, meet with your teachers, and you're going to be surprised how much they want to see you do well. They want to work with you. They want to see you excel. And again, I think so many times in high school, kids are hesitant to like meet with professors and teachers outside a classroom. And again, these teachers love to see students that are engaged in their education. So I think when you get that and they're, you're really want to do well, I think professors and teachers really want to work with you. Again, I think here we still look for a lot of well-rounded kids of being involved with extracurricular stuff, being involved with different leadership things, doing community service. It's not just lip service for a college application. We're really trying to find guys that are doing a lot of those things and balancing their time outside of the classroom, outside of football.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. And it's funny because a lot of the kids they obviously when they go to a recruiting camp, it's like all football, right? But I remember for disclosure, I do work your camp, which we'll talk about that in a second. But I remember you said something about, bring your resume to camp. Is that something you guys actively look for and look through?
Yeah. So like when all these schools are doing, academic reads or information with their admissions office, you want to give as much information on yourself as you can. So if you put together a resume page and it says, I've done a ton of stuff in the art or the music world, or I've done a ton of community service, or religion's important to me, whatever you've done with your time, these schools want to know about it. So as coaches, we want to make sure we're making really good decisions and bringing in kids that want to get a great education, want to go to class, want to excel in football, are going to be good members of the community. So we want to know as much information as we can about guys. So as much as we're watching a film and seeing that a kid's a great player and then bringing them up on campus for a visit, we're kind of interviewing them as much as we're trying to sell the place to them. We really want to find out what type of kid they are. Do they love football? Do they want to get a great degree? Do they want to get a great education? And most times we've done our homework beforehand, and a lot of times those answers are all yes. But we've definitely had kids visit that we didn't feel loved football. And I think at the college level, you're competing against just outstanding student athletes. So it's really competitive. So if you don't love football, I think it's going to be really tough for that student to excel on the field. And then, if guys don't want to go to class and do the work, if more of a parent's pushing it than the student's pushing it, those things are good to know because you want guys that are self-motivated.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And do you find I see this anyway. I mean, was a private coach for a long time, and one of the biggest drivers of getting business as a private trainer is like the recruiting angle. And I always found that the, very well intentioned, but parents, once they kind of saw that like there's a little sparkle here, Johnny might be able to play college football or lacrosse or something, that's when they really kind of dove in headfirst in the deep end of training and hoping to leverage that to get into a school they really want to go to. I mean, have you found like, I guess maybe the better question is like, how have you seen recruiting change? I mean, we've known each other for years now. Like, how have you seen it change in maybe the past 5-10 years to now? And how is I know with the FBS schools, they've got the 105 roster limit, there's NIL, there's revenue sharing. How is that stuff all kind of trickled down to the NESCAC level?
Yeah, obviously the football climate right now is an interesting climate, and you start with the Division One, that these students are getting paid and getting paid a lot. If they're at the Division One, Power Five conferences and what they're doing there, you're seeing a lot of kids at the 1AA level that are having a good year, and then the Division One schools are recruiting right from those schools. The kids are entering the portal and then getting a lot of money to transfer up to Division One. We're seeing at the Division Three level, kids having a really good year, and then he's getting that money to go up to Division One AA. So again, I think it's trickled down all the way through with all the NIL stuff. At our place, what we're seeing is we're getting guys that are doing grad transfer years. They want to stay and get the degree for one of the best schools in the country, which we're excited about. And on the back end, they want to do a grad transfer because they still have eligibility. And we want to help those guys with that. They're alums of our place and definitely want to see them go on and do great things. So we had a kid a couple of years ago, Logan Tomlinson, who just finished up at the University of New Hampshire, was a 2-time All-League receiver for us. And now he's been a 2-time All-CAA player for them. I had a great career, and we've got We had a kid, Mason Von Jess, go down to Sacred Heart, punted for them. Another kid, Nick Helbig, come to our place and go to Wake Forest for a year. So again, great to see these guys go places, get another degree, get to keep playing football, and take advantage of some of those opportunities. How it's really trickled down to the Division III side of things is, there's just a very talented pool of students and student athletes looking at these schools. So it just each year just gets more and more competitive from an admission side of things of just getting into school. That's the biggest thing we notice. Our profile every year is getting higher and higher, and the students that are reaching out are getting stronger and stronger.
Yeah. I mean, have you noticed? I mean, I kind of noticed, at least in like a kicking perspective, like when I first started doing your camp, maybe, I don't know, 3 years ago, they're pretty average, like, Division III level kicker, a lot of kids who could hit like, I don't know, 50 yarders consistently. And then, last year or two, I've seen kids come down to the camp that, 5-10 years ago clearly would have been Ivy League level kids that are kicking 55, 60-yard field goals. And they're just outright saying, yeah, like we're just kind of focusing on the NESCAC schools and, maybe one or two big FBS schools like a Duke. I've seen anyway, there's been this kind of like talent push down, if you will. Have you seen that at all in other positions?
I mean, our league has some great players. So like
Yeah.
even from a kicking side of things, our two all-league punters that were in the league this year, I think it was the Hamilton and the Williams kid. Like we have a great punter, and he was sixth in the league with average and stuff like that. Now we felt he was a weapon in games. I mean, he pinned guys inside the 20, he pinned guys inside the 10, just did a great job all the way around, and he was still behind these guys. So there's just some really talented players at all positions in our league. And again, I think we're getting great players throughout the league because of the strong academics of all the schools.
Right.
But with the punting and kicking, you're seeing some elite players come through the league right now. So I think the kid that just finished at Trinity, I don't think he's missed a kick in 3 years.
Yeah.
Extra point field goal. So pretty talented kids coming through.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, have you seen, maybe talk us through kind of start to finish, like the big mystery for a lot of parents and players is just like, how do I get started with recruiting?
Yep.
How do I get noticed for the first time? So could you talk us through the very tip of the spear of how the recruiting process starts at Wesleyan for you guys and finishes? Like how do you
I think
first
the
find out about
biggest thing
kids?
for student athletes is their freshman year and sophomore year, really, just want to do a great job in the classroom. That is what you can control, and control what you can control. You could control taking a tough schedule and doing a great job in the classroom. And if you do those two things, freshman and sophomore year, you now set yourself up for a high level of schools that you can apply to. And if that's the direction you want and that's the academic ability you have, the first 2 years doing really well, that's going to set you up for more options. If your first 2 years are just average, getting kind of A, B's, a couple C's, or you're not taking a great track to schedule, that can hurt you even if you're playing catch up the last 2 years. So
Right.
I think that's the biggest focus there. Obviously, there's a ton of growth from a football side of things from age 14 to age 18. It's a physical sport, and a lot of growth physically for kids during that window. We've seen kids that we've watched on junior film that we thought were just okay, and then you see them at camp in the summer, and they put on 20 pounds, 30 pounds, they're taller, they're running faster. It's definitely a big difference. So the first 2 years, I just think are academically do a great job. And then football-wise, really work out and compete and, just keep trying to get better. The film these coaches are going to watch the most is going to be your junior film. They're going to watch your junior film before those camps, and then they're going to see you in the camps, before your senior year. So I think that's the biggest piece for guys looking at some of these schools. The biggest issue I see with guys now is, from our level, we'll be recruiting kids. They'll go through the summer. They've been to camps. People have seen their film, seen their grades. They have 4 or 5 Division III offers from high academic schools, and they just don't want to make a decision.
Yeah.
They're hoping that all of a sudden a Division I will offer them or Division I will just come through. And I really think you're going to find the best place that is for you. And I'm not saying Wesleyan's the best place for every kid or Division III is the best place for every kid. But really go to a place where you think those coaches have stability, where you're wanted, where you're a good fit for their system, offense, defense, or special teams, where you would go to the school if football wasn't a factor of it, that you like the location of the school and what you want to major in. But so many times I see kids post, this is my 14th offer on Twitter. As a football coach, that stuff just annoys me. I don't care if you have any offers. We're going to watch the film ourselves. We want to see what type of kid you are, what type of character you have, how important academics are to you, and we're going to recruit you. But if you get an offer from us and then, 4 months later, you don't make a decision, you come back to us and say, oh, coach, I'm interested in Wesleyan. It's like, well, we're done, with our class.
Right.
So I think a lot of great kids just don't make decisions on time and then they get left out where, hey, you've got 3 great offers from 3 great schools and you're a great student. Sit down with your family and the people that are important with making that decision, talk about your options and make a great decision.
Right.
And if you're not ready to make a decision, what other information do you need to make that decision? Do you need to do another visit? Do you have to talk to alumni? Do you have to talk to coaches? Do you have to talk to players? Do you have to talk to more family members? But be excited about making that decision, whatever school it is. I think kids wait too long and they miss out on some spots. And I think this dream that, hey, all of a sudden, an Ivy League's going to come through, or Division One's going to come through. A lot of the Ivy League schools from a football perspective are done by September 1st.
Hmm.
So I would say the majority of them probably have 80% plus, if not 90% plus of their class by September 1st now.
Yeah.
So the clock has moved up very, very quickly. So again, I just think that the kids need to find out what information is important to them in the process and be ready to make a decision, when they start getting some of these offers.
What do you, I mean, yeah, and I see this a lot where they're almost going down with the ship kind of deal. It's like, hey, buddy, you got an offer from one of the best academic schools in the country, and we're holding out for, an FBS school. What do you think is what do you think causes that indecision for kids or parents oftentimes? So sometimes the kids are happy with what they got, and mom and dad are pumping the brakes.
Yeah, again, I think every kid is different and every
Yeah.
situation is different. But I think you really got to sit down with the people that are important when making the decision with you and say, what do I want? What would be the dream situation for myself? And then if you get some of those offers, sit down and make the decision. If you get an offer from Harvard and Columbia and Dartmouth, all right, well, those are great options. Is this where it's going to be? Then make a decision. I don't think you got to wait 3 more months to see if Yale and Princeton also offer. If you like those 3 schools, they like you, then, sit down and figure out which one's the best fit for you. So, as a Brown, I give the family a lot of credit. I won't use the name, but we took a quarterback. He was a great player for us, ended up winning an Ivy League championship. He committed to us early. And then the process, Harvard lost the kid late, and they reached back out to the family. And the dad, essentially told their coach, like, hey, you didn't want my son 6 months ago. You just lost a recruit. You're trying to fill the last spot. We're not interested, and you don't have to call us. Well, that takes a lot of integrity and character for a family to say no to Harvard.
Right.
And then the kid ended up, falling through to a place that really liked him, really believed in him, and kid ended up being a multiple-year starter and an Ivy League champion in the end. So, I gave that family just a lot of credit because I don't think a lot of families would have made the same decision.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the hard part with recruiting. It's almost, well, maybe it's different with the Ivy and the NESCAC because the application there are, the runway is a lot shorter application wise, but for the most part, there is no like national offer day for the big FBS schools. If they want to, they could put you on the team and have you start 7 days later if they really wanted to. So I find it really causes families really have to be the ones who close doors for themselves because most college coaches are, at least at bigger schools, probably won't do that, whether it's a lack of time or they just want to keep options open, which I totally get. Do you find, maybe we could talk about that? Like, how does like, offers and all that stuff work for the Division 3 level or for you guys?
Yeah, again, for our league, it's all academic driven. So, all these schools are getting information to their admissions offices, and then the admissions officer letting the coaches know in all the sports, hey, these kids look like they have pretty good, doing a pretty good job. And if they continue on this track of strong senior grades, a strong application, doing a good job, then they have the things look very positive for them, So, when in our league, if any coach of any sports kind of make an offer, it's been already kind of an academic based
Yeah.
situation. But again, it's giving you an opportunity to go to one of the best schools in the country. And a lot of these schools, obviously, the students are very strong. They're not dipping for athletics or anything like that. They're kids that are going to come here and thrive. We just had our academic all conference come out. We had 32 players academic all conference, which means they have over a 3.5 GPA and they're significant players. So, it's impressive that the type of students and student athletes that are coming to the league, and I'm not going to go over my academics back in the day, but the kids are much stronger academically every year. I think the thing that's disappointing is I don't think college football has figured out the NIL and the transfer portal and all those type of things. You're going to unfortunately see 15,000 kids going to the transfer portal at all levels, and it's going to work out for about 8% of them. And
Yeah.
it's just, maybe 5%. So again, I think if you make a commitment to a school, really trying to figure out like, hey, what can I do? How can I look at myself? What can I do to either work harder, learn the system better, do a better job in the classroom to give confidence to my coaches that I can be a guy that they can count on.
Yeah.
And I think if you're at X Division I school and you're going to transfer thinking it's better at the other place, if you're not willing to work hard, if you're not willing to watch film, if you're not willing to learn the system, if you're not willing to do what it takes to be successful, you're just not going to be successful wherever you go. And I think we've created a mentality where doesn't work out, hop in the portal and see what happens. And I think a lot of those students that are doing that, they're not landing at great spots.
Yeah. Yeah, wherever you go, there you are, right? Like most of the time your biggest problem is you. And it's hard, right? Cuz I think back to when I was in college and that like no matter how you cut it, like freshman year is hard anywhere, right? And if the transfer portal was a lot easier years ago, you didn't have to sit out like I probably would have hopped in at some
Yep.
points, you know. I find anyway, maybe you could correct me if I'm wrong, like there is this like honeymoon period of recruiting and it's great for the high school kids and the parents. Oh my gosh, like, you know, these great brands and logos want my son and they're telling us how great we are. And even, you know, even for the kids that go to the Power 5 like Notre Dame or whatever or the Boston College, like there is a reckoning at some point when you're going to be sitting in your room going like, "Oh god, like what the heck am I doing here?" And that's like
Yep.
even for the kids that are doing NIL and all this other stuff. How do you guys help, you know, develop your guys and help retain them? You know, maybe you could talk a little bit about maybe the transfer portal and the NESCAC. I don't think it plays as big a role, but you would know better.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, especially your freshman year, there's probably a third of every freshman class that questions themselves, that doesn't adjust well to school, that doesn't, fit the ball rolling right away per se. Maybe they get injured in the preseason, they miss home, whatever it is. And this is at every school in the country, probably a third of every class. So I think with those kids, really think back about what got you here. What are your core values? How did you get to this position right here? And you got here because, you are hardworking. You do have great work ethic and character, and you just got to keep working. And those kids that just keep being coachable, keep paying attention, keep grinding away, they see success at the end of it. Whether it's later that season, whether it's next season, those kids see success. I think the kids that stop working and stop paying attention and stop trying to get better, those kids really struggle. And unfortunately, you see it all levels.
Mhm.
I like nothing more than kid comes in our program, works really hard, doing a great job, and it's just not clicking for them. And then you see it click for them freshman spring, sophomore fall, sophomore spring, whenever it is. And you just see them reach their full potential because now they figured it out. And
Yeah.
whether that's just more comfortable at school, understanding our offense or defense, whatever it is, when it clicks for that kid, that's really gratifying for a coach and for that player that now they're playing at a really high level. And it happens all the time. It happens for every age group. We've seen where a kid comes in and just gets it freshman year and he's off and rolling. And we see where a kid, it kicks in during spring ball. And we see where a kid kicks in sophomore year. And I tell our coaches all the time, like, never give up on a kid. Keep coaching them, keep working with them. And I've seen guys have 3 years where they've kind of been role players and then senior year be an all-league type player. And it's just because, they've just kept putting the work in and it finally clicked for them. So love to see that. Love to see guys fight through adversity, not point fingers, not place blame, but really look themselves in the mirror and really just keep working at it.
Yeah. Yeah, and it might click at different times for different roles, right? Like you might like I think back to my freshman year, like I clicked as a student like from day one, but I didn't click socially till like spring semester. And I didn't click football wise till like almost junior year, you know. And I find anyway, and I don't think it's because any of these guys want to do it this way, but especially at the Division 1 level, you're in an environment where you could essentially just go buy a team that's competitive in the portal to some extent. And there's definitely been a pressure for those coaches to move away from development, developing talent to like chaperoning it and just like trying to find ready-made players. Do you find that at the, at least at the NESCAC level or at Wesleyan, because you guys have such a big academic moat, you guys have to develop the guys you get, right?
Yeah. I mean, we haven't had any issues with kids transferring out or anything like that. I think our league has had the grad transfer route where kid was injured freshman, sophomore year, played, was an all-league player in our league, and then gets opportunities because the kids finishing here have been really good players. So, Tufts had the kid Phil Lutz, was offensive player of the year for our conference. He was an all-CAA receiver, I think third team for Delaware this year. Logan from our place was second team all-CAA. Another kid from Bates went to Marist and played. And we've probably had 8 or 9 kids grad transfer up, and all 8 or 9 from our league have had great success. So
yeah.
I think it speaks to the talent of our league and the talent of the kids, but you're not seeing a ton of kids transfer out of the league as a whole because they're one of the best schools in the country. And there's a lot of great programs in our league and a lot of opportunity for these kids post-college as well.
Yeah, definitely. Let's switch gears maybe a little bit. In terms of, I get a lot of frequently asked questions. What advice would you have in general for kids when they're putting together their highlight tape? That seems to be like, no matter how many resources are out there, there's always, I feel like it could be a little bit more clear with what coaches are looking for.
Yeah, I mean, I think for junior film, like a 3 to 7 minute film, but for junior film, guys are trying to say, hey, is this kid a recruitable athlete? Is he kind of fit the mix of other guys we've looked at athletically? And then obviously for us in the Ivy League, you're trying to match where their academics are to their ability on the field. For the film, you want to put your best clips together, or if you're a skill kid, you want to show that you can run, that you can catch, that you can defend, whatever you're doing for that 3 to 7 minutes. And then really, I think the biggest piece where kids kind of make some mistakes are, if you want to play college football, what level do I think I'm going to fit at? And then what camp should I go to with still be able to be prepared for my senior year? Because coach are going to watch your senior film. Even if you're committed to a place, beforehand, they're going to watch your senior film and see how you compete. But the big thing is, I see some of these kids that they send me, hey, I'm going to 14 camps this summer. And I'm like, I don't know how to tell you that this is a terrible decision. You should go to 2 to 4 camps and go to camps where you can be seen, where the coaches and schools that you're interested in are going to be there, where you can compete, and then hopefully tie it into where you can see some of the schools on off days that you're interested in. So if you're not a region kid to New England and you're looking at schools in the New England area, come to a camp at one of them, take a day or two and travel and see 3 or 4 other schools, go to another camp, travel for a day or two, see schools, go to another camp, go to 3 camps of the week, see 10 schools. And, I think that's a worthwhile trip. That's better than coming out for a week, doing 7 camps in 7 days, only seeing 7 schools and being exhausted and not performing well at 3 to 5 of the camps because your legs are tired.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And also too, with the NESCAC, it's interesting because, you guys pool resources very well. I think, you guys cooperate a lot better than some conferences might. So like you guys run a good camp. I know there's one at Tufts too, where, if you go to one of these, like the red and black camp that you guys run, or a lot of the Ivy League camps too in the area, there'll be NESCAC coaches at those things. So you're really able to hit a bunch of birds with one stone, so to speak. And yeah, right, like I find that we tend to overestimate talent and ability, especially if you get kids from the Northeast, maybe it's smaller schools. And even if you're a really good player in the Northeast, like it's a whole new ballpark if you're going to a camp in Texas or Southern California or Florida, where the talent level in general is probably a little bit higher. And I'll get families sometimes that'll categorically say like, yeah, we just don't want to even consider a Division III school. I don't know. Like, what do you think is behind some of that? I don't know, maybe stubbornness or I don't know. Like, I encounter that quite a bit sometimes.
Yeah,
But
I think we obviously encounter it all the time. And I think people are surprised at the level of talent we have on our team. When guys come to watch our games, excuse me, fighting a cold over here, I think they're just surprised at how talented our kids are. And I think they then watch the game and they're like, wow, like these kids are really good.
Yeah.
And even when we bring freshmen in, I think every kid thinks they're going to come in and start, and some play, but you definitely got to work at a lot of these programs, and it takes a while to get that playing time because there's a lot of good players. And I think with the Ivy League, they're surprised at how talented that league is, where kids are like, it's Division I AA football, I can play there. And Ivy League's having the same thing where a lot of these kids are doing grad transfer years and they're going up to 1A and they're thriving. And again, they're staying at Yale or Columbia because they're great schools, they're getting a great degree, they're playing great football, and then they still have that opportunity to grad transfer up afterwards. So again, a lot of opportunity for those guys. But I think both of the Ivy and the NESCAC leagues are some of the best Division I AA and the best Division III leagues because of the academics. You're getting these great students there and great players. So when we work these camps, other camps like Ivy camps or Patriot League camps, I'm always interested in the families that come up to me and say, my son was here today and I could tell their coaches were not interested. So we need to start broadening our horizons and looking at other places because I can read the room and they're not interested in my son.
Yeah.
And I can always tell that family is going to be okay. That family's figured it out. They realize that this Ivy League school has 150 kids here today. Their coaches are interested in 3 or 4 of them, and they have 7 of these sessions. So there's another 150 kids coming 7 different times. They're going to be interested in, a handful of kids every time, and that they need to start looking at some other schools if they want to play, college football. So those families get it. The other families you talk to, where if you're getting talked to by a very high academic Division III school at a Division I camp, they're probably talking to you because they've evaluated that you're not going to be a Division I player.
Right.
And they've seen that the other coaches are not that interested in you. So they know that you're going to probably be a very high-end Division III, get a great chance at a great academic school to go there. And I think the kids that are more open to it and the kids and the families have done a little research on it are more successful. And I think the families that wait, there's a lot of kids that end up either not playing college football or just getting discouraged by the process and not getting, ending up in a great spot. So unfortunately, I think it happens quite a bit because there's a lot of bad information out there. I see the coaches that run these camps, and John Poppy Columbia, like, hey, there's some great schools here and you should be looking at all of them because you never know where you're going to fall.
Yeah.
And I think that advice from coaches is great and they can't hear it enough. We run the red and black camp. I invite all the Ivies, all the Patriot Leagues, all the NESCAC schools with Twitter and social media nowadays. Like, it's not like you're going to find a kid that no one knows about. So, but we want to make it more easy for these kids, want to give them the best opportunity, want them to be able to compete, be evaluated, be recruited, all those things. But we're kind of running our camp the way I would want it run if I was visiting someone else's camp, the way I would want it run if it was my son going through the process. And I've been doing it 25 years, so I think we have a really, really good product. I think kids have had a lot of success going to it and then ending up at a really great spot. And it's not the Wesleyan camp. It is the red and black, so you can be seen by all these schools. And there's a lot of great schools out there. In the end, if it's another team in our league and you think that's a better fit for you, we're going to wish you the best. My job's not to yell at 18-year-olds and tell them to make bad decisions. We want guys that are excited about what we're doing, excited about being a part of the Wesleyan community. And if they're the right fit, then that's awesome. And if it's not, there's a lot of great spots out there for them.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say I did a bunch of college camps prior to coming to yours, and your camp was the first camp I was handed a printed itinerary for. I've been to other camps where there was literally 1,000 kids and 100 coaches, and nobody knew when anything was happening. And I mean, the cool part about your camp, and I think other camps have started to do this more, like you actually build in networking time. Hey, take your phone with you, trade numbers, trade Twitter accounts with the college coaches. I mean, there's really no kid at the end of one of your camps that could say, like, I didn't get a chance to talk to all these coaches, which is a little bit different environment. It's a lot more, collegial, and everybody talks to everybody, versus you go to, a Power 4 camp where there's 200 kids and there's one coordinator for your position, and he's only going to talk to maybe 4 kids that he wants. So what would you say? I mean, where are we at right now in the recruiting cycle? So you guys it's December. So have you guys wrapped up your 2025 class? Like, how does that, when do you officially kind of turn the page from one class to the next?
I would think our league probably turns the page at the end of January, as a whole. A lot of these schools, if the kids went early decision one, they get the admissions notification in about a week from now. So then those kids, feel pretty good about they know where they're going. And then there's another group of kids that will go early decision two or regular decision. But our league will probably be done with their recruiting by about, mid-January. Some schools are done now. Some schools will be done in a week or two. But I think the majority of the league will be done by mid-January.
Now, do you guys, and that's something, it's funny, even families that are very interested in NESCAC and they love the school, or you guys, so sometimes they're hit with, hey, we need you to apply ED1, or we would very much like you to apply ED1. How does the early decision application factor into like the admissions and recruiting process?
Yeah, I mean, again, I think students and families need to do their homework. And if that's your top school, go early decision one. If you've talked to that coach, or you have, say, 2 to 4 offers at whatever league it is, whatever, situation it is, because all these offers are different depending on the school, the league, stuff like that. If you have 2 to 4 of them and you like your options, I think you need to sit down and figure it out and take that opportunity early decision one with one of them. Really gives you the best shot to know, are you going to end up in a great spot that you feel really good about?
Yeah.
I just think the longer you wait, and there could be merit to it. If you just think I'm going to have a great senior year and I was injured as a junior or playing a different position or I had a new coordinator, whatever it is, there's some merit to waiting for it. But now with the information, coaches have seen junior film, they've seen you at camps, they've seen your first few senior games. So usually by mid-fall, you kind of know what kind of offers you're going to get. I think a lot of the Division I schools, the Ivy League schools, they're already recruiting sixes right now.
Right.
They're already done. Where the Division III schools are still recruiting kind of mid-January. Some will recruit up for another month after that. But I think that they're done, so they're really working on that next year's class. And if they're saying, hey, send us your film, or, send us your first senior grades, I think they're just kind of pulling you along instead of being honest with you, saying, hey, we won't have a spot for you. You should look at other schools. And I think coaches don't do that enough. One reason they don't is then you get pushback from parents or pushback from this. And I think it's just easier for a lot of these coaches just to ignore the problem. And the problem goes away, and that's it. Where we're pretty honest and direct with people, but you definitely get more pushback when you're honest and direct because people don't always want to hear it.
Right. And it's, you think about what's the respectful thing to do. Like, it's funny. Everybody says they understand it and they want honesty, right? But then you give them honesty and then it's not they don't want it. What would you say? I mean, in terms of, so you guys if you guys do offer a kid a spot, or you give them athletic support for admissions, they didn't apply ED, but they apply regular decision or whatever. Have you had situations where like you've offered a kid a spot and then they decided to go to a different school? And then do you guys get that spot back from admissions, or is it kind of gone?
Yeah, I think with all these schools, say like in our league, if you get an offer from a place, understand that if you're a defensive back, the school that school is trying to get 4 defensive backs in a class. So you get an offer on August 1st, and all of a sudden it's October 1st, and you're like, oh, like I still want to go to X school. And then you reach out to that coach 2 months later. If they've had 4 defensive backs commit, they really can't take a fifth.
Right.
They have to have balance in their recruiting, and they can't take another kid there. If you're talking about a kicker, these schools are taking one. We've had scenarios in the past where we've had some great kids come through our camp and seen on junior film. And the first day we've kind of been able to get academic information back from missions. I've called the family and said, hey, you're our top kid. We've got a lot of interest in you. We're only taking one kicker. Like, there's no timeline or no deadline or anything like that, but just know that, we're going to offer our 2 best kids. And it's kind of we're only taking one. And
Right.
talked to the other family, and literally 1 year, we had a kid say yes, and we had a kid say yes 1 hour later. And I was honest and direct with both families. And the other kid that we had to say no to ended up at another team in our league and is a great player. And we knew he'd be a great player. But we were just trying to be honest with him. We told both families the same thing. Again, it's not a hard deadline or a hard pressure or anything like that. It's just kind of the landscape of what it is,
Right.
where if you're an offensive lineman, these schools are taking 4 to 6 offensive linemen a year. There's a lot more opportunity and a lot more kind of time maybe to wait.
Sure.
If a team's taking one running back, you got to make a decision pretty quick. You can get an offer from a school, is my point, August 1st, and a day, a few days, a week, 2 weeks, a month later, they don't have that spot. So depending on your position and what those schools' needs are, I just think, again, when if the offer time, say in a league, is August 1st to August 20th, and all of a sudden you're sitting here with 4 or 5 offers, all right, are these 4 or 5 schools you really are interested in? Are they schools you're really going to go to? Or do you want to just post on Twitter that this is my 7th offer?
Right.
So if you got schools that you really like and that's where you're at, I think you just sit down with the people that are important with making a decision in your life and start saying, all right, I'm interested in going to Amherst. And coach told me if I continue to get good grades and my application is strong, it looks very positive that I'm going to get into school. All right, be excited about that. It's a great opportunity.
Yeah.
But if you wait on these 5 schools, a month later, you might not have those 5 offers anymore.
Right. And you might lose the Division III offer you were sitting on.
And if you like those 5 schools, the top 2 that you like the most, they might be done. So now it's like, well, now I got to go to option 3 through 5, and I really want option 1 and 2, but I just waited, and then now I don't have it. And again, if you want to wait in June, July, and August, really no problem with that. But once you kind of get into your senior year and you've sent out senior film, now you're really getting a little dangerous time where you're going to wait. These schools definitely fill up, they move on. And I think you just got to kind of do your homework on where do I really fall. But by about August 1st, so you're going into your senior year, you're going to know if you're a Division I kid or you're not. You're going to know if you're a high academic kid or you're not. And then you need to say, all right, this is what I have. Is college football what I want to do? If it is, these are my offers. What do I think?
Yeah. Yeah. And it's hard because I think a lot of kids, they'll conflate, or maybe parents even, they'll conflate, potential as a athlete as potential as a person, and that's definitely, it's not the case logically, but emotionally in the moment, I can see a lot of kids and parents getting hung up on that. And it's hard.
Or kids will watch a documentary on ESPN and say, well, this guy walked on and it worked out great for him. It's like, guys, that's awesome. It's an awesome story.
Right.
And that's great that happened. But for every kid that walked on and earned a scholarship at Penn State, there was a million other kids that thought that would be them and it didn't work out. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But go to Penn State because you want to be a student at Penn State. Don't go there because you think you're going to be the walk-on that makes it to be the guy.
Well, especially now, I mean, I don't think there will be any more Rudies because of NIL and the roster and all that stuff going to 105.
But as you said before, with them going to 105, those kids that can't make it there anymore are going to go down to 1AA, and then those kids are going to come down. So it's going to be, in 2 years from now, it's going to probably be the most competitive it's ever been to get into any of these schools.
Sure.
From a football side of things.
Yeah, absolutely. And, it's funny, like you could still look up the huddle accounts of the guys you think you're as good as at these bigger schools. And it's like, okay, Johnny, like if you really think you're good enough to play at that FBS school, go look at the starters huddle. Like, does your tape look like that? And if you do get an offer, and I think families, they're so excited that one, that they got it. And like two, they're super afraid of like doing anything whatsoever to mess it up. They forget to just ask coaches like, okay, cool. When do you need an answer by? When would you like an answer by? And that's what I would typically tell families, like, just make sure you ask them, like, what, do they have like a mental timeline that they're kind of holding you to?
And again, every school's different, but a lot of times I'm like, hey, we want you to want to be here when you're ready to be here, but just know that like, as you are either making a decision or not making a decision, there are all these other families everywhere making decisions. And that's where you can kind of get left out on a spot with it,
Sure.
Again, I think it's, the big thing for the guys going to be senior year. You're in August, you're going into your senior year. What are the offers I have? Once these coaches get in the season, it is very challenging to keep up with film, email, Twitter messages, and to really say, Hey, we're going to add this X person to the board. That just means that staff or that coach is really good at recruiting. That's really going to stay on top of all that stuff. So tough in season, that's really make the jump when you've been working at the recruiting hard for 9 months.
Yeah.
At every school.
How many DMs do you get a day? How many are in your inbox that you?
I probably on Twitter get probably 300 messages a week. So, and I try to, my biggest thing is I'm like, hey, send me your academic information. Send me your transcript. Send me your senior schedule. Send me your senior classes. And then if a kid sends it to me, I can tell that they're a real prospect in the sense that they want an elite academic school. And if their grades match, then we'll watch the film. But I can't watch 300 films in a week, and I'm not going to watch a film until I see the academics look like, hey, they're a strong candidate for what we're trying to do here at Wesleyan.
Yeah. All right. Switching gears a little bit. Best piece of coaching advice you ever got as a young coach?
Man, great question. Again, I've been fortunate. I've had unbelievable mentors. My high school football, wrestling, and baseball coaches were all unbelievable. My college coaches were great. The guys I've worked for have been unbelievable. I think the biggest thing as a young coach is to have big ears and a little mouth. Just listen. Just take it all in. Try to learn from others. Don't think you have the answers to everything when you walk in a room, and just have big ears and a little mouth. And once you've listened and kind of learned what they're doing and you figured it out, if you feel confident and feel that this can help with whatever you're doing, then you can speak up a little bit. But don't try to come in the day one in whatever profession you're in and try to solve everything. So I think that's been helpful. I try to teach that to my younger guys. I think for younger coaches, the biggest thing is just being organized and following through on things. One of your assistants asks you to do something, the head coach asks you to do something, you're a young coach, that you're getting all that stuff done in a timely manner so they know they can count on you.
Got it.
Doesn't matter how small of a task.
Mm-hmm. Got it. Okay. Parting piece of advice to any parents or players that you have, and then any events or big things coming up for Wesleyan football.
Yeah, I think the biggest advice for a family that, hey, I'm currently a junior and I just finished my junior fall playing football. Well, I want to put together, my transcript for when my semester ends. So my grades close December 10th. Beginning of January, I want to get my grades together, kind of do a resume page on myself with a link to my film and just a quick paragraph email that says, Coach, I've done research on your school. I like what you guys stand for academically and athletically. Here is my email, cell, home address. Here's my GPA, transcript is attached. Here's a link to my film. And here's a page of my resume so you know what I've been doing with my time. Best with their name. Nice and simple, direct to the point, gives coach all the information that they need. So I would send that out to 10, 15, 20, 30, whatever schools that you think you're interested at that point. Then I would start planning, what camps do I want to do this summer to be showcased, and, what schools am I interested in? Then I would start saying, what do I want to do for visits in the springtime? Again, I don't think you have to go to 14 camps. I don't think you got to visit 20 schools. I think you want to kind of go through the process a little bit, see a couple schools, you kind of know some areas, and then go to these camps and really see who's interested in you. So again, that's the best advice, kind of how the calendar approach goes to, going into your senior year. And then before your season starts at mid-July to August, if you have 4 or 5 schools that are showing you high interest, what is your interest in them? And do you want to visit now before your senior year so you can get those visits out of the way?
Right.
And see if you like the campus, if you like the community, you like the town, you like the coaches, whatever factors are important with you would make the decision. So I think that's the biggest advice I would give to a kid who's a junior, a family that's a junior now, of kind of that timeline for the next, 9 months. If you're a sophomore, I don't think your transcripts is important right now to get to a coach. Your film is important. You want to just keep doing a great job in the classroom, keep training and working hard, doing everything you can. Maybe go to a camp or two this summer to see how it works, see how the process works, but really put myself in the best position to have a great junior year, just working out wise. And if you're a senior and you're looking at a great academic school, I would just start figuring out, if you haven't already, this next month.
Yep.
Where every day you wait going forward, December, January, there's just less and less opportunity.
Got it.
As far as things at Wesleyan, we had a great year. We won the NESCAC this year, won the Little Three for the 3rd year in a row. Which is Wesleyan, Williams, and Amherst. Our guys are competing at a really high level. We've had a lot of postseason awards, which has been great. We had 3 players make the Division 2-3 All-New England team. It's a really challenging team to make. I think the most we've ever had before is 1. But Chase Wilson was the Offensive Player of the Year for our league. He's a receiver. He's a monster. He's going to finish in December. He's going to do a grad transfer year as well. He's already got about 8 or 9 Division I offers, and we're supporting him in that process. Just a great young man, and he'll be another kid like Logan, which will have a shot at the NFL. So excited to see what he does. Two other kids. Ben Carbeau was the Defensive Player of the Year by the Boston Gridiron Club for Division 2 and 3. He also made the New England Writers Association first team. And then Dylan Connors made the New England Writers first team as well. So, I got a couple banquets to go for our guys, which we're excited about. They deserve it. Again, we had the 32, I think, academic all conference. I'm sure there's more academic stuff coming out. But just really proud of how they compete for us, their effort, what they've been doing. And it's a fun group to coach. And again, I got a great staff, and we got a really good culture right now. So, life is good, takes a lot of work, and but really enjoy coaching our group. They compete for us every year, and tell them all the time, you can do everything right. You can work really, really hard, and that guarantees you nothing in life. What it does do is it gives you the best possible chance to be successful, but everyone out there is working. Everyone's trying to do everything right. But love to see our guys grind and work hard. And again, excited to see what they do next year.
Awesome. All right, guys, that was head coach Dan DiCenzo of Wesleyan football. Be sure to give the show a listen and leave a review on Apple Podcast if you can. That was awesome, man. I really appreciate it. What are you up to now? Are you guys in the office or what?
Yeah, you're still recording, just so you know.
Oh, my bad. Hold on.